Good morning, guys. Merry Christmas. A little late, one day late on that, but waking up today, the day after Christmas, I'm kind of waking up with one thing on my mind, and that is the NFL playoff picture. I'm excited about tomorrow's game with the Ravens and Steelers, but that makes me think what needs to happen for the Ravens to get into the playoffs. And I'm sure if some of you guys are football fans, you're probably thinking the same thing. If you're a Steelers fan or a Dolphins fan or a Titans fan, Jets fan, Texans fan, as of last night, before the Texans lost, we had 8 teams that were still alive for the AFC, the final 2 spots in the AFC, which is a wild finish. You know, it's crowded, but I'm going to try to make some sense of it and help you realize, what it's going to take for your team to get into the playoffs. Right now, obviously, the first thing that you look at is their overall record, and the overall record of the Ravens and the Broncos has them in the 5 and 6 spots, the final 2 spots in the AFC for the wild card. The Ravens and the Broncos both this week could possibly lose. I think they'll both lose. I think the Ravens will lose at Pittsburgh. I think the Broncos will lose to what is the hottest team in football right now, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. And if that's the case, we'll drop back to having, 7 loss teams. So 7 teams will be tied up for the playoff picture, assuming they all win. Which we'll talk about later. But you got 7 teams that would be tied up then, so what we'd have to do is go to conference records, and that's something you guys really probably haven't seen much. I really haven't even been able to bring it up. I had to figure it out myself, go through people's schedules and look at it. But conference schedules are huge right now because that's what's going to determine who gets to go into the playoffs and who doesn't. So what I'm going to do is let you guys know the conference standings. Right now, the best conference record is the Jaguars and the Ravens, each at 6-4. The Broncos have a 6-5 record. They have 1 NFC game left. All the rest of the teams have 2 AFC games left. The Dolphins and Jets both are at 5-5, and the Steelers and Texans are both at 4-6. Because the Titans lost last night, they're out of the playoffs. They'll finish with at least 8 losses. So what we have here is basically all these teams with ending up possibly with 7 losses. You got to go to their conference records. You got the Jags and the Ravens sitting the prettiest right now at 6-4. Jaguars look great. If they can beat New England, they can walk right into the playoffs with the best conference record. They'll be 9-7 if they beat New England and then beat Cleveland, which should be a layup next week. The Ravens this week look pretty tough against the Steelers. They should finish at 9-7. They'll probably lose to the Steelers, and then they'll beat the Raiders, would be my prediction. The Broncos, I predict that they'll lose as well to the Eagles this week, but it won't be as bad because that's not a conference loss. And then they'll take care of the Chiefs next week, and they'll finish at 9-7. And all of those teams will have 6-6 conference records. I'm sorry. They'll all have 7-5 conference records at that point. If that was to happen, the Ravens have the tiebreaker over the Broncos because of the head-to-head matchup. The Ravens beat them. So the Ravens and the Jags, I believe, would be your 2 playoff teams. And that's the best of my understanding. I'm not 100% on that. Beyond that, you have the Dolphins and the Jets still in the picture. If they could get to 9-7 with some help from some other teams losing, the Dolphins own the tiebreaker over the Jets because they beat the Jets both times they played. Other tiebreakers would be the Dolphins also own a tiebreaker over the Jaguars if they were to end up with the same conference record as the Jaguars, which I doubt that would happen because the Jags need to win both of their last 2 games to even be in the playoff picture, and the Dolphins need to do the same thing. So there's no way they'll end up with the same record, so that doesn't matter. The Jets and Dolphins have the same conference record, and Miami beat them both times they played, so the Miami will have the tiebreaker in that if they both end up 9-7. For teams like the Steelers and the Texans, they can just pray that people lose because with a 4-6 conference record, they're not getting in unless they're the only teams that finish at 9-7. And for that to happen, they need the Broncos to lose their last 2, they need the Ravens to lose their last 2, and they need all the other 7-loss teams to lose at least 1 game. So for the Steelers and Texans, things don't look good. The Steelers' only hope this season is to just ruin the Ravens' season by beating them tomorrow. So they can take that home as a small victory or whatever. But The Texans have the same opportunity. They play the Dolphins, so they can pick up another win, but things look real unlikely about those two teams getting in the playoffs because of their conference record. So hopefully that made some sense of the AFC playoff picture to you guys. If it didn't, sorry, but it's pretty jumbled, and I hope it helps.